So it's funny that we are starting a talk about 1983 with two pretty obscure bands that were just forming at the time, because they're forming in a backdrop against really the beginning of hair metal.
Yeah.
Quiet Riot had the first ever #1 album that was considered heavy metal. I mean,
they were college radio DJs during the 90s. They helped expose the bands like Nirvana, Pavement, and P.G. Harvey to the masses. They went to the shows, interviewed musicians, and reviewed albums. They worked security at concerts and once even did load-in for Fish Show. Now they're dead. Whether you want to explore the lesson work or know music, or take a trip down memory lane, tune into the new dad rock. From deep cuts by familiar artists to cult musicians who never earned their due, and everything in between, the new dad rock will expand your mind.
So I saw Swans, and I'm just trying to figure out what they were doing in like 1983.
The same shit, right? Like, it's a weird band, or that's a weird lead guy, right? Like, did they do like one song for 20 minutes?
Yeah, so I saw them, and they played 2 hours and 20 minutes, almost 2.5 hours.
That's fucking terrific.
On the set list, it listed 5 songs.
I believe it. Yeah, that's a band, dude.
At one point, Michale Gira, the main guy, the consistent member since the 80s, after, I guess it was the second song, he's like, how long were we playing that? An hour and a half?
Dude.
So, yeah. So 1983 actually is their album Filth. Which I think... Oh, that's actually their debut. So Swans came out in 1983. So this is perfect, since this week we're talking about 1983. Welcome.
I'm glad you've done your research.
Welcome to the new Dad Rock, Steve.
Oh,
well,
boy.
Dear listeners, you can tell we're creating this one live, and we're not even using AI, because there's not a lot of intelligence here.
Oh, it's artificial though.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, like 30 minutes ago, I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole and I started clicking on the links that were in articles of other links, and I ended up on the American Music Club, which was formed in 1983.
Okay. Same as Swans.
But their first album doesn't come out in 1985, so we'll get to that later. But I almost missed it, so I'm concerned that we're missing a lot of good music.
I'm sure we are, and I don't think we've ever claimed to be
comprehensive
or thorough.
Thorough or good.
Yeah, so Swans, just for the background for the listeners, is a band. Michale Gira is the main guy. They were formed in the New York City underground scene in the 80s. Cohorts with Sonic Youth, in fact, did a number of early tours with Sonic Youth. They've traded songs over the years.
Oh, that's badass.
And Sonic Youth would play their song. So World Looks Red is an example of that. Anyway,
I didn't realize that.
They were a noisy, abrasive, in-your-face band in the early 80s. Then they kind of dipped their toe into a little bit of industrial in the late 80s into the 90s, and then they kind of went away until 2012.
Yes.
Excuse me, 2010. In 2010, they came back, and it was more instrumental, long-form, repetitive, droning, grinding music with not a lot of lyrics. And their first album back in 2010 had like 7 or 8 songs, and each release has seemed to have gotten... the songs have gotten longer and longer, and so their more recent ones, The Seer and The Glowing Man, these are now like 6 or 7 songs across 2 CDs, 30-minute songs at times.
Yeah, I think I saw the Seer tour, because that was 2017-ish or so. I saw it at the Independent in San Francisco, which was on Divisadero Street. Yeah, that was an awesome show. But yeah, it was like 7 songs, hour and a half.
Yeah, they're just very intense, and it was something to behold live. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to spend in my spare time listening to them, especially over the summer. It's not relaxing. It's definitely jarring.
I do believe there's bands that are better to see live. The OCs or OCs is that band. I don't listen to them at home, but I think if you want to go to a show, go to the show and it's going to be amazing. So I think it's one of those things where it's a live band, not a recorded band. Mm-hmm. And I think the Swans are in that camp.
Yeah. I'm just looking it up. The Glowing Man tour is what you saw in 2017. So 2016 was their album, The Glowing Man. But their well-known albums are The Seer from 2012, To Be Kind in 2014.
Dude, I only heard about them in like the 2010s or whatever that's called.
Yeah. They were never big.
Do these people have day jobs?
No, I think he's a true artist. So what he does for each of their albums, he'll do essentially a GoFundMe. And what you get with the GoFundMe is a very expensive early demo of whatever album he's working on. And then once they've reached enough that they have the money to record it, then they'll record the album and then do a proper release, through his own label. And that's what they've done for at least the last 4 or 5 albums. That's brilliant, dude. It's like OnlyFans for musicians. You're talking about American Music Club, which is a band I know. Who's the main guy in that again? Mark Eitzel. Mark Eitzel, who love that dude. Yeah, San Francisco yoga guy, right? I don't know about yoga, but he's probably the musician I've seen. He's in the top 5 musicians I've seen live the most. I've seen him in New York. I've seen him in San Francisco. I've seen him at American Music Club. I've seen him as Mark Eitzel by himself. I mean, I saw him as early as probably the summer of '94, and I saw him as late as, I don't know, 2017, 2018. I saw him in New York, San Francisco multiple times, like over the decades. Mm-hmm. I love him so much. So that's why I was surprised. I'd forgotten about stuff. Actually, like all the years are messed up in my head, and this is bringing back all the thoughts. So tell me, American Music Club, Mark Eitzel, what is his sound? Because I know the name and I know I've heard it, but I cannot. I'm not pulling a song into my head right now. So he's a singer-songwriter. What is his format? Does he have a full band? Is he just no. Guitar? So, but no. His power is himself. And but San Francisco in '83, he forms a band. By the way, I get there in 96, 13 years later, and he's huge by then. American Music Club is this amazing band. He writes the most beautiful songs. They're so heartfelt. I love his voice. He has a song called Jenny that's beautiful. Basically, his best album is Mark Eitzel Live, which is him acoustically solo. But he's famous for the American Music Club, where he had a guitarist who would do leads over his music. But he's phenomenal. '83, Huey Lewis and the News is big. Def Leppard, Pyromania comes out. Yes, 90125. By the way, where's 90215? I thought it was a zip code, and there's actually not a zip code. It's actually just, how when you look at albums or record, it's like the label number. That's pretty awesome. That was the number. It was 90125. Wow. I respect that. That's actually pretty good performative art. Dude, one of my first tapes, and certainly a tape I listened to for years. On my paper route, I'd get 25 or 30 papers, and I'd ride from Fairwater, where I lived, and I'd ride down Edgewater, and then I'd start my route on Clearwater, and I would listen to Huey Lewis and the News Sports. But I'd deliver 25, 30 papers, and I'd listen on my cassette. What were they called? A Sony Walkman? Was it Walkmans? Yeah, totally. So I remember, I had a shitty Walkman first, but then I finally got the yellow one with the double clutch. The Sports. And Huey Lewis and the... Oh, yeah, is that what it was? Yeah. A Sports. Oh, that's the name of the album, dude. Right? So, yeah. Dude, I listen to this album so freaking much. I'm actually beginning to think that my bad musical taste in country is because of what I listened to back here. But the heart of rock and roll, terrific song. I Want a New Drug, which is a Ghostbusters prelude, right? You talked about it before. Walking on a thin line, straight off the front line. Yeah, I love that song, man. They had If This Is It. By the way, how old am I here? It's 10 years old. I'm listening to all these love songs and I have no idea what's going on. Oh, it's crazy. The lyrical content. I think we touched on it a week or two ago. do you remember the song "She's a Beauty" by the Tubes?
I bet if you sang it, yeah.
Yeah, you look this song up. You know this song. It was a very popular song, but it's essentially about seeing a stripper at a peep show. And I was singing that song. I was
I would never get that.
10 years old. But
totally,
like, listen to that song now, and you're like, oh my god, this guy's watching a stripper at a peep show. Top 40 hit.
What I realized about this era is I recognize so many songs I listened to then, but the songs I listened to from that era are not the songs I listen to now. So, right, like you talked about last time, Casey Kasem, like Karma Chameleon by, right, like the Culture Club. Girls Just Want to Have Fun, where Lou Albino, who's a wrestler, was the dad.
He had pigment.
Dude, yeah. Holiday by Madonna. I mean, Frank Goes to Hollywood, Relax.
Yeah, but there are things that came out then that I listened to then and still listen to now to some extent. Like David Bowie, the album Let's Dance, with his rendition of China Girl, Modern Love, Let's Dance, Cat People, we talked about. And The Police, Synchronicity, King of Pain, Wrapped Around Your Finger, Every Breath You Take. I was listening to them. I liked The Police from their previous album, Ghost in the Machine. So I was into Synchronicity. I think I remember giving it as a birthday present to a bunch of friends because,
are you serious?
Give them records. Yeah.
Dude, you were so mature when you were 10.
Well, if you want to know the real thing, the real turning point when I was 10, though, was Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden Peace of Mind came out in 1983. So in 82, we mentioned last week The Number of the Beast, and the song Run to the Hills had made it to MTV enough that it was percolating under. I could hear it I knew about it. Their album covers were at the stores. They were phenomenal to a 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And I'm listening to ZZ Top. I'm listening to Def Leppard. I'm listening to Quiet Riot. And it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And now Iron Maiden comes. And I remember I had a standard old school tape recorder, like a true tape recorder, and a boombox that I had found at the beach that happened to have a Billy Idol tape in it. And I borrowed a tape of Iron Maiden Peace of Mind from my friend, and I smashed the two of them together so I could record from one tape to another. There was no high-speed dubbing or double cassette decks at this time. And I recorded that Iron Maiden album, Peace of Mind, which is heavier than anything I had ever heard. They're known Satanists already, so I knew that going in, and they have all these crazy lyrics. They're quoting scripture and biblical verses and songs about spirits compelling them to jump in a pool and war, and it was the craziest thing, and it literally scared me. Like, I was afraid of it. Because I was 10 years old. But that album, still to this day, is my favorite Iron Maiden album, and I will fight anyone.
I have a couple of questions. One is, would this be in your top 10 Desert Island albums?
Dude, it's number one. Number one.
Oh, well, okay. You're talking about scary. Do you put any of these tracks on your Halloween playlist?
Yeah, there's one Still Life that I might put on there. It's got a backwards message at the beginning, and it's just the drummer like joking around about something. It's nothing evil or anything, but because they had that reputation, they put it on there.
All right, so the last question I have is, are they really Satanists?
No,
not just doing this.
Not at all. They were. Iron Maiden is an English band, and the United States is a very reactionary religious culture. And these guys were, as they might say, taking a piss out of us. They had interest in scary movies and horror movies and, the monster movies. And they had a song called Children of the Damned, which was based on essentially a science fiction movie that was 10 years old at the time. But you put the imagery of Eddie, a zombie mascot on the cover, and call your album Number of the Beast, they're going to think you're evil. That's the depth of the discourse in this country.
Dude, I wonder how much money they made off all their posters, right? Because I don't think you made money off touring back in the day. And
they definitely did with their shirts.
Oh, for sure, dude. So it's funny how where the money comes from an artist has changed, because touring is how they make money now. They don't make it off streams, But back in the day, you didn't make money touring. You might have made money off your records, but it wasn't that much. But if they kept all the money from their merch, they were probably the richest band out there.
Yeah,
I remember everyone had these shirts.
They did very
Posters.
well with the merch. And I remember Iron Maiden played the Glens Falls Civic Center in late August, which is, just before the beginning of school. And I remember that first week of school, all the kids, like I was, up in middle school now, like, so all the older middle school kids had their Iron Maiden shirts on. And I'm like, this is so cool. And then, shortly thereafter, I dubbed the tape, and I remember listening to it with my cousin and in secret, and we're, freaked out by it. But,
That's awesome.
this is a backdrop of, Motley Crue Shout at the Devil is coming out at this point.
Hey, I have a question. Tangential to everything you just said. But I can't believe Tom Waits came out with Swordfish Trombones at the same time. I didn't listen to it at all because I was 10 years old. But when we got to college 10 years later, that was like the Tom Waits introduction album, right?
Yeah, well, he changed his persona really from that drunken troubadour in the 1970s to this more artistic Tin Pan Alley junkyard style that he had, and the trilogy of albums, Swordfish Trombones, Rain Dogs, and Frank's Wild Years. This is the beginning of a new era in Tom Waits, and it's the noisy clanginess and, like I said, antique sounding junkyard style.
My question about Tom Waits is, was he always a New York artist?
No, he's from Southern California. He currently lives in Northern California, but he's from like Pomona, California. So he's an LA guy. And in fact,
are you serious? I thought he recorded these albums in New York, though.
Well,
I'm wrong.
A big impetus for his change in.
Okay.
So you said he was. So LA, Hollywood, he gets mixed up with Francis Ford Coppola and soundtracks one of his albums, One from the Heart, in 1980, and then meets Kathleen Brennan, who is his wife and probably pretty responsible for saving his life from a drug addiction, but also an artistic muse. And they write a lot of his songs are co-written with Kathleen Brennan. And at this point is when he moves to New York. So you're right about him being a New York artist, but up until this point, he was an LA guy.
Oh, interesting. And so I saw his play. What was it based on? Black Rain? Is that the right one?
The Black Rider.
Oh, yeah, the Black Rider. Yeah, I saw that play in San Francisco.
Well, he also did Alice and Wojciech, which is the Blood Money album. I saw Wojciech at BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So,
cool. Hey, Huge album comes out in 1983. I did not listen to it until probably 89, 90. And more importantly, it might be in my top 25 albums, but like I talked about this on an episode before that Chrissy, Denise, and I were driving up to Tahoe to go skiing with my two boys. And I put the album on and we sang the first 5 songs in unison as loud as we could, and the boys were scared. The Violent Femmes, their first album.
Yeah, I remember that story, and this album was the first album. It's notorious because it went platinum, but it never appeared on the Billboard charts because it just had that longevity that. I remember listening to it in 1988. And then all the way through college, and I'm sure when my kids probably know it from college.
Did you listen to it? I mean, I think sorry, you just said that, but did you actually listen to it? Like, was that an album that you liked and you'd put on, or you just heard it?
The girls in my friend group really liked that album. So through osmosis, I knew essentially the whole thing. Some friends I liked it. Some friends of mine and I went to Kings Island Amusement Park in, I want to say this was 88 or possibly 89. And we did, you were able to sing a song and record it and make a video of it. And, and we did Blister in the Sun. So yeah, that was definitely big in my lifetime. A couple other albums from '83 that I would still mention that really hold up well are U2 War, with Sunday Bloody Sunday,
huge.
New Year's Day, Seconds.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it takes a second to say goodbye, say goodbye. Oh, that's the Edge singing that song.
Yeah, This Is Faulty.
That could possibly be U2's real. That's their breakout album in my mind. I'm sure someone who knows something.
Okay. That was kind of their. That was like, I think you termed it right. It was their breakout album. Joshua Tree was their breakthrough, where they were everywhere.
Oh, they're superstar. Totally.
They were ubiquitous at that point.
I've been reading. Well, you know how I read like music autobiographies, but I'm reading a David Bowie biography by Dylan Jones, and I'm skipping around in it. But it's interesting because what it is it's all recollections of people. So it's basically like a paragraph or a page of someone from that time period recollecting, including David Bowie, and it's phenomenally good. But because we were recording 1983 today, I looked up the Let's Dance. And he did that with Niles Rodgers from Chick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently this is when he becomes a superstar. I mean, I thought he was a superstar earlier, but apparently this album sells 11 million copies. The other ones might do 3 or 4 million, but this is the one where the breakthrough album, as you were saying before.
Yeah. Well, as you may have recalled from our episode in the 70s with Iggy Pop, he had that Berlin trilogy. He had the early years with the Ziggy Stardust and Life on Mars and, Diamond Dogs, that era.
Diamond Dogs.
So he just kept reinventing himself every few years. And it seems like every reinvention got a different reaction. So he was really big in the early 70s, more art crowd in the mid to late 70s. And, in the early 80s, he had, what's the one with the clown video?
You know why he put out so many albums?
Why did he put out some?
Because that's how he got paid.
Because that's how he
No,
got
seriously.
paid. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Like how a musician makes money has evolved over all these decades.
Yeah.
Now it's touring and merch.
Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. That was the album. Ashes to Ashes is the song I'm thinking about.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that his live productions were pretty costly as well. He put on a big show and he had a lot of backup musicians to pay for. So there was a lot of cost there. And I'm sure there were, some habits that he might have had that could have cost.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Especially compared to the price of a concert ticket.
Oh my, yeah, totally. Which is it's good for the concert goer that they can get away with that.
Yeah. But speaking of concerts, in 1983 there was the US Festival. So do you know about the US
was
Festival?
it US or was it US? See, I read it as US, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It was in the US. So anyway, it's Memorial Day weekend in 1993, and it's 95 degrees. And on Saturday, they had the New Wave Day. On Sunday, they had the Heavy Metal Day. And then on Monday, they had the Rock Day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So some bands that we talked about on the New Wave Day were The Clash, Men at Work, Flock of Seagulls, Stray Cats, In Excess. The Heavy Metal Day, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Ozzy, Judas Priest, Triumph, Scorpions, and Van Halen. Talk about a list right there. And then, so that was, heavy metal was separate from rock, and rock had its own day, and that featured David Bowie, Stevie Nicks, Joe Walsh, The Pretenders, and U2, among others. So, just shows you that new wave was very popular, but rock commanded 2 days, and the heavier side of it had a day on its own.
Well, because that was bleeding edge, right? So that's what was unique then. Like, that was new.
Yeah. So, yeah, at that point, Van Halen was 5 albums in. They had Diver Down was the most recent. So they had Women Illusion first, Van Halen 1 and 2, Fair Warning. Scorpions had been around a decade plus. They had Blackout was their most recent album. And Triumph was surprisingly huge. Judas Priest was coming off of Screaming for Vengeance. Ozzy, of course, huge with Black Sabbath and had a couple solo albums out at that point. Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil was about to be released. They had Too Fast for Love out. So, and Quiet Riot ended up having the first number one heavy metal album of all time. So, what a movement! What a time to be alive!
Oh, seriously. Hey, on the way out, I have a couple questions for you. This is the quick fire 60-second series of 1983. All right. So, who sang Down Under, which was a 1983 song?
Oh, Men at Work, dude.
Who did Total Eclipse of the Heart?
Is that
you have no chance.
Bonnie?
You already win. It's Bonnie something. You already win. I don't even care.
Bonnie Tyler.
Fine. Oh, you're totally right. Okay. This one's harder. If you fucking get this, you're a king. Come on, Eileen.
Oh, Dexy's Midnight Runners. Boom.
Oh, no way. Okay, fine. She works hard for her money.
So hard, honey. Tina Turner.
Wait, who is it?
Tina Turner.
No. Donna Summer.
She worked hard for her money, and you better treat her right.
She blinded me with science.
Thomas Dolby.
Okay, Africa.
Toto.
Okay, Mr. Roboto, the greatest song of 1983. Mr. Roboto.
Styx.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm done. Because that's all that. Oh, Solitaire.
I know that one.
Uh-huh.
That's like, is it New Order?
No. Blue Monday, I think, came out in 1983, though.
Okay.
Laura Branigan. Remember that name?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Casey Kasem, right?
Gloria!
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Congratulations. Yes, that was the other song. Yep.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So 83 was...
You passed your 1983 graduate certificate.
83 was where it, I think my love affair with music really took hold.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back since. Obviously, I was into it. And I'm really excited to get through the rest of the 80s. So...
it's going to be a great summer.
And as Keith mentioned, he's started listening to it now. So it's we're gonna have some serious insights. Thanks for listening to the New Dad Rock.
We're Keith and Steve, the two dads bringing you the ages together.
And New Dad Rock.